RUIPRO are back. I've covered them a few times on this channel, but what they actually do is have really sleek fibre optic cables that you can run through your walls or just, along your skirting boards. And because it's a fibre optic cable, it is really, really thin and you don't need to make massive holes. And then you actually plug something on the other end, such as a HDMI or DisplayPort end. And in the past, one of the limitations with RUIPRO was that you only had the HDMI ends or the DisplayPort ends and nothing else. But this is where these new products actually come in. So if, for example, you've already run their fibre optic cable and now you want to give yourself Ethernet capability, you can now do that with these new detachable ends. Or if you wanted one end to be DisplayPort and the other end to be HDMI, you can do that with these ends. So you can see the box there, it just says RUIPRO 8K full fibre optic, DisplayPort to HDMI detachable connections, and inside the box you've actually got these ends there, and then you've got a manual and some Q-tips, and you always get the Q-tips, and that's just because the actual fibre optic ends can be not necessarily brittle or fragile, but you need to keep them clean because fibre optic is based on light, right? So if there's sort of dirt and debris, that could actually block the fibre connection from working. But yeah, these are the ends, they feel good, they're metal, they're nice and heavy, it doesn't feel like cheap plastic or anything else. And then you've got these USBs. But the reason you need those ends is described in the manual. There needs to be a bit of a translation between, the fibre optic cable and the HDMI and DisplayPort ends. So just make sure that, where you are planning on using these, you do have USB-C source nearby that can actually power them. And next we can look at a demo. For this demo, I've unplugged this DisplayPort cable. So there's nothing plugged into this monitor, and we're going to pretend there's a wall there, and then we're going to, magically get output from here to here. So the first thing is, obviously you've got your fibre cable that you've run to your walls, and basically you're going to remove these particular stickers, because they are the warning stickers, and then what you're going to do is remove the ends as well. So you can just remove that there, and then remove that, and then remove that. And never do that when you're still running these, cables and stuff through your walls, because dust and stuff is going to go in here and that's going to harm things. But when you've finished your install, you're going to take all of that off, you're going to look for the little notch there, and then you're going to plug it in. So you're going to plug it in there, again, look for the notch there, look for the notch there, and plug it in. And then here it says source and display end, right? So the display end is going to go in here, and the source end is going to go into our, computer. Okay, yeah, I was seeing this earlier. So basically I've plugged in the two things. I've plugged in HDMI into this and USB-A as well. But the problem with this monitor and some older TVs as well is they don't always give enough USB power. So in that situation, what you actually then need to do is get a separate power source. Come on. Come on. There we are. So now I've got my two monitors again, and I'll explain, the significance of that in a minute. But obviously, I can move I can move things over there. And obviously, I know you can see that this is all in the same room. But remember what I said, pretend there's a big wall here. I've then run this fibre cable through loads of walls, into a different outbuilding or a different part of my house. And then this is sitting in a different room, but I'm still then using HDMI. And that is the benefit of this RUIPRO product, which is that it's got those detachable ends, so now you can mix and match. You can have DisplayPort to HDMI if you want, which I think is really, really cool. So I'll put details of this product down in the description. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button, and please subscribe to see more unboxings like this. Thanks for watching.